Hey everybody, this is Ryan McClanahan with historythroughcards.com. Hope you're all doing very well today. So, the Football Hall of Fame is going to be announcing their semifinalists, and I'm really looking forward to seeing who they select for the Hall of Fame coming up for 2024. And I actually have a few horses in this race, and so I'm going to be talking about a few of these guys. Now, there are at least two guys that are non-players, really, that I really want to see get in, and I think that only one coach and one contributor will get into the Hall of Fame. I really wish that they would add more players to the Hall of Fame. I'm a big Hall guy, so I have no problem. The more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. And right now in this video, I want to share with you the story of this gentleman right here. This is 1952 Topps Buddy Parker, and he is up for Hall of Fame consideration this year. And he was in the past, and he's got a really interesting story. I love this card, by the way, but I had purchased this back in 2011 for 22 bucks, and at the time it was pretty expensive. I uh, actually paid a lot less for Hall of Famers in the 1950 and 51 and 52 Bowman football set. So for $22, I was like, oh my God, why did I have to pay that? But there's actually a very good reason for that. So I'm going to actually go through at least two articles on Buddy Parker here, and they're going to be kind of conflicting articles. He was born in 1913 and he passed away in 1982, and he leaves a very interesting career behind. And some people have said that he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. He shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame for one specific thing, and that's the way he left football. And who am I to judge how or why this guy left football? But as you can see, this is a really nice card. You guys can pick it up pretty cheaply right now. If he gets in the Hall of Fame, it might be a little bit of a different story. I don't think that this is a terribly difficult card to find. However, it's been my experience that some players in these particular Bowman sets are pretty affordable, and then they get into the Hall of Fame, and their value goes through the roof, and it takes some time for their value to go down. And I'm still waiting to grab a few cards. One in particular is Max Speedy's rookie. That card you could get for probably 20 bucks at one point, and it's 1950 Bowman, and he actually does have a 1950 team issue as well. But that card was 20 bucks all day long. Then you got in the Hall of Fame, and it's like 200 bucks. Another guy, Ed Sprinkle, and he's found in the 1951 Bowman football set, and I probably have seen this card at least a half a dozen times, and I didn't think much of it, tell you the truth, because I'm like, who's Ed Sprinkle? And so he is now in the Hall of Fame. I don't know of any other cards that he is on, and actually, so that card is quite expensive now. He did just get in, and then as well as Bobby Dillon, and he's in the 1952 Bowman. And I've actually heard differing stories about the difficulty with Bobby Dillon's rookie in the 52 Bowman series. A lot of people have said that that's a very difficult card, and I've actually seen it only a few times, and now it's still expensive. So who knows? You know, it's it's kind of strange with these Bowmans from 1950 to 1952. They're great sets. I love the artwork, and obviously I'll show you the artwork again on this. If I can show you, there we go. So that's pretty cool. I really enjoy this card. I'll show you the back of it if you guys have not seen any of these cards. Well, let me see. All right. So if you guys haven't seen any of these cards, um, they are fun. They're really fun cards. I don't have any completed sets. The 1950 Bowman I'm trying to complete, but it's taking forever. And some cards in that particular set are more difficult than others. For whatever reason, I'm not entirely sure. But let me get on to these two articles. I think you're going to find them really interesting, and I'll meet you on the flip side. This is from the Knoxville News Sentinel, March 23rd, 1982. Buddy Parker, a one-of-a-kind football coach, by Lindsey Nelson. The medical bulletin out of Kaufman, Texas, simply said that Raymond Buddy Parker had undergone surgery for a ruptured ulcer and that his condition was very much guarded. And a prayer went up from these lips for the old coach who prowled the sidelines as one of a kind. Buddy Parker gained his greatest coaching fame when he led the Detroit Lions to the NFL championship in 1952 and 1953. Those were exciting football teams. The backfield consisted of Bobby Lane at quarterback, Doug Walker at left halfback, Hunchy Horschmeyer at right half, and Pat Harder at fullback. Parker is credited with a number of contributions to the game of football. He is said to have been the first to introduce the 2 minute drill, the offense used in the final 2 minutes of each half. In the manner of the Texan that he was, Buddy Parker was often a quiet man. He did not take to strangers quickly or easily. He was sometimes given to strong drink and was known to last far into the night talking football and spinning stories of football. At the Super Bowl press room in Houston a few years ago, I was standing in the center of the room talking to friends when I felt strong arms wrapped around my waist from the rear, and then I was lifted off the floor. Even in a hospitality suite, that is an unusual situation, so I was anxious to see the source of my lift off. When he finally put me down, I saw that it was a grinning Buddy Parker. I hadn't seen him in years. He was older and a little bent, but we sat in a corner and talked about the old Lions. "Who was your best pass receiver on that squad?" I asked. He had had several who were outstanding. "If you really needed the clutch catch," he said, "it was Jim Duran." Buddy Parker and Buster Ramsey had collaborated in coaching the 1949 Chicago Cardinals, and Buddy had gone from Detroit to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he had worked with his old quarterback, Bobby Lane. He was at Pittsburgh from 1957 to 1965. I remember going into Pittsburgh one weekend to do a Steelers game, and I visited with Coach Parker on Saturday morning. He told me that he had put in an offense for the next day's game and would have halfback Tom Tracy, a former volunteer, going in motion on every play. Tom Tracy, who had come to the University of Tennessee after a sparkling high school career in Birmingham, Michigan, was perfect company for Buddy Parker and Bobby Lane. Tracy had a world of talent, but he was not the most disciplined man in the world. Late that Saturday night, I came across him at an after hours gathering spot far past the curfew deadline if Coach Parker had a curfew deadline. I was working in the broadcast booth in those years with Frank Albert, former All America quarterback at Stanford, and later quarterback and then head coach of San Francisco 49ers. As we looked across the smoky room toward a convivial Tom Tracy, I said, "He may pass away on about the fifth play of the ball game. Do you realize that he's going to be in motion on every play?" "Yes," said Albert. "It's possible that he might pass away after the fifth play and he'll throw up after the second." Well, we all know that a lot of strange and unpredictable things happen on the football field, and one of them occurred on the third play the next day when Tracy went in motion and took a 50-yard pass from Lane and in the end zone for a touchdown. I suppose that where Buddy Parker really endeared himself to me was at that Lions welcome home dinner in 1957. The welcome home dinner is a standard in pro sports. After the team has finished training camp, they come home to a gathering of their fans. It's a rather syrupy affair. There are speeches by politicians telling one and all how, quote, we are sure to win the championship, unquote. Well, when Coach Parker was introduced, he got up and said, in effect, I quit. He said, I'm disappointed with the club's training camp performance. I can't handle this team anymore. And he quit. That's where he went to the Steelers. As coach, Buddy Parker was one of a kind. This is from the Pittsburgh Press, March 24th, 1982. Buddy Parker was definitely a winner, by Pat Livingston, sports editor. It is ironic that death, when it finally caught up with Raymond K. Buddy Parker, resulted from a ruptured ulcer. It is ironic because the worrywart Parker, one of the most enjoyable personalities I have known, must have survived countless other ulcer attacks in his harrowing, nerve-wracking career as a football coach. For that was Buddy Parker, although he was a brisk, standoffish man, easy and relaxed only with his family and a hand-picked cordon of friends. The 68-year-old Texan was definitely a leader of men. Although we had our bitter moments, I liked Buddy Parker. I liked his candor and his straightforward talk. I was never disturbed by his impatience with criticism or his arrogance toward the press, for these were personal characteristics which defined the nature of his peevish, intolerant man. And he was intolerant, not racially, as he had once been suspected of being while coaching the Lily White Lions. He was intolerant of losing, which is why, out of a clear blue sky, he quit coaching the Steelers, just as he had done 8 years earlier when he impetuously stormed out on a winner, the dynasty he had created at Detroit. In that he never won a title at Pittsburgh, which he had done regularly at Detroit, I suppose there is some validity to the argument that he wasn't a howling success. But Buddy Parker was definitely a winner. You can make book on that. He abhorred losing. It embarrassed him. It drove him to drink. On occasions when the Steelers would lose, and they won much more than they lost from 1957 to 1964, the years he coached in Pittsburgh, Buddy Parker consumed himself in a personal rage that could alienate his friends. But those splits never lasted. There was a contriteness about the intense, forgiving man that wouldn't permit him to bear grudges, and he never grew so big that once his personal agony of defeat had run its course, he couldn't apologize and admit he was wrong. In a sense, I suppose, Buddy Parker was the last of the newsmaking coaches in an era that predated tact and diplomacy as a standard in the clubhouse. Parker could be as non-committal as Chuck Noll in a post-game interview, but if a writer hung around Parker long enough, returned on the team plane with him, the coach's candor would provide him with a story. He quit the Steelers so many times, embarrassing the writers who reported it, that I started sitting on stories of the resignations until Monday. By then it was water over the dam, a scoop unfulfilled. Did I say that? The puzzled Parker would ask. Hell, I don't remember saying that. I'm just glad you didn't report it. As coach of the Steelers, Parker was the boss. He left little doubt about that. His assistants, extremely loyal to him, were spear carriers. He was the dominating force, traveling on the field at the chalkboard or devising strategy. Parker set the policy. He provided the answers. Once I recall, after the Steelers had beaten Baltimore in a game nobody had expected them to win, I talked to Harry Gilmer, a Parker aide, about the strategy. In the second half, hanging on, Parker moved fullback Fran Rogel up alongside Earl Morrall, the quarterback. Gilmer explained that with the Colts' awesome defense line, Gino Marchetti, Big Daddy Lincecum, Don Joyce, and Ordell Brassey blowing in, the young quarterback would have no chance unless the Steelers could neutralize that Baltimore rush. Rogel's strange role was to confuse the Colts, make them hesitate. It worked, for the Steelers whipped the Colts, scoring twice in the second half. I reported what Gilmer explained to me. The following Tuesday, as I breezed into the Steelers' locker room in the cellar of a house in South Park, Parker interrupted a staff meeting and called me into the office. He was livid. "Who gave you that story? You?" he demanded, unleashing a string of expletives that could be heard down the road in the police barracks. "Who told you you could write that?" "If you had read the story," I replied, "you'd know who gave it to me." I quoted Harry Gilmer all through it. Gilmer fidgeted nervously. The other assistants made themselves busy doodling, but Parker wasn't finished. "What do you mean talking to Gilmer? When you have any questions about this football team, you come to me, hear?" said Parker, his voice rising, his hand sweeping across the room, taking in the sheepish assistants at their desk. "These guys are Indians. I'm the only chief around here. Don't you forget that." "Are you trying to tell me who I can talk to, Parker?" I demanded, my own anger rising to match his. "Are you trying to censor me?" "I'm not trying to censor anybody," reported Parker. "Write what you want, but if these guys are your friends, you won't quote them in the paper. If you do, they'll be looking for jobs tomorrow." As I said, Parker could admit his mistakes, and it was a mistake that was his undoing with the Steelers. In 1962, in Miami, after the Steelers had lost to the Lions in the runner-up bowl, Parker prevailed on Bobby Lane, his longtime quarterback, and to many his alter ego. To hang up his cleats, Lane did so angrily, reluctantly. The following year, with Lane coaching the Steelers, went down to the final game of the season before losing to the Eastern Division title to the New York Giants. Subsequently, at the Super Bowl, Parker admitted that his advice to Lane, advice that was given primarily to shield the aging quarterback from bluebirds who were chirping at him from the stands, was the biggest mistake he had made as a coach. "If I had kept Bobby one more year," said Parker, "Mr. Rooney would have won his first championship earlier than I did." After leaving Pittsburgh, Parker took one more crack at coaching. When Bud Wilkinson accepted a job with the St. Louis Cardinals, he hired Parker as his offensive coordinator, a job which would have suited this attack-oriented, innovative strategist to a T. But one day or two later, Parker retired for good. "I thought I could come back into coaching, but I was fooling myself," Parker said after his 10-year hiatus in Texas. "I had been away from the game too long. I went to St. Louis and looked at movies, and I didn't know what they were doing. Hell, I couldn't even understand the terminology. It wouldn't have taken me 2 years just to learn that." Buddy Parker, you see, was more than a winner. When it came to football, he was a proud and regal man. Unfortunately, I fear, he may be the last of an extinct breed. There's a few things here that the articles actually didn't touch on, and I'm actually kind of surprised about this. It's kind of an important thing. Uh, Buddy Parker actually was a football player. He was a halfback, a linebacker, defensive back, and he played with the Detroit Lions in 1935 and 1936, where he had his first championship, and I think it's his only championship as a player. And then in 1937 through 1943, he was with the Chicago Cardinals. And that was actually something that's kind of interesting. That was in 1944, the year after he ended up retiring as a player. The Cardinals turned into the Card Pits. The the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cardinals merged in 1944, and a lot of times we hear about the Steagles, right? The Steelers and the Eagles merging as one ball club because so many players were leaving for the military, but we don't often hear about the Card Pits, and a lot of these guys actually on both of these squads really had no business being on a football field. I think one guy on the Steelers was blind, legally blind in one eye, or maybe both eyes. Um, whatever he was doing there, I'm not sure. But there's actually a couple of really decent ball players that were on these clubs as well, and I think one of them at least should be in the Hall of Fame, and that's Jack Ferrenti. So Jack Ferrenti has a 1948 Bowman. Maybe someday he'll get in. He wasn't on the list, but I'm always hoping. I'm always hopeful on this stuff. And then obviously as a coach, Parker, he won the 1952 and 1953 championships as well, which I think is awesome. And those were some really, really great teams. Obviously, Bobby Lane. Bobby Lane has a lot of cards out there to choose from. I'd love to know what your favorite Bobby Lane card is. For me personally, I would have to say his 1953 Bowman is right up there, and then followed by maybe his 51. I know a lot of people say they don't like his 51, but he also has a really, really great 1952 Bowman, which I absolutely love that card. All right, so this is Bobby Lane's 1952 Bowman. It's his small, and I really like this card. I like the colors. The blue in his jersey really pop against that pink background. Really fantastic card. I'll show you. Let me see. There you go. This is actually, I think, pretty affordable. Um, it's been a while since I've actually looked at the prices, but it was affordable for me anyway, and I've had this for a very, very long time, and I'll show you the back of it too. So as you guys can see, there's a gum stain on the back next to number 78 Bobby Lane, but I'm not entirely sure, and I don't think that the grading companies I don't think that they really care too much about gum stains. I don't think it brings down the condition of the card, but I I could be wrong. So anyway, the next one is the 1953 Bowman, and what I really don't like about this set, and I know a lot of people like this set quite a bit, but that football, that white football, really takes away from really everything else. It it's the first thing that I notice on this card instead of the player. And I know Chris from Stories and Cardboard has a great theory about the football here, the white football. And if you guys haven't seen his channel, his site, go over and check out what he has because he's got some great stuff. But I think he's correct, in fact, on this. And I'm not gonna tell you anymore. Go on over and check out his videos. Anyway. What I really do like about this card is that jersey again. It's really something that stands out, and I'll show you the back as well. So as you can see, there is a another gum stain. Oh, it's where am I here? There I am, right here. And again, I don't think it takes away from the card too much or the value. Again, I could be wrong about this, but you know, I don't have too many of these 1953 Bowman football hanging around just because of the football itself. I do like this card. I picked it up not too long ago, I think 2019 or so, and I think I paid $40 for it. Um, as it goes with Bobby Lane, there is the curse of Bobby Lane, and the Lions haven't had a championship in I think about 60 years or so. It could be longer than that, in fact. Um, curses being what they are. The Red Sox had one, and they hadn't won in decades and decades, and I think maybe even the Cubs. Although I think the Cubs, their Wrigley Field was built on an Indian burial ground. But again, hey, I don't know that for sure, but it was only like 108 years since they won their championship, and I'm really happy that the Cubs won. Very, very happy, in fact. Maybe the Detroit Lions can win another championship or a Super Bowl, whatever. Again, that'd be cool. That would. And again, I'm not sure why the Lions always play on Thanksgiving. That one kind of escapes me. Maybe you guys would know in the comment section below. I'd love to get your take on Buddy Parker here, and maybe even Bobby Lane. If you guys have a favorite Bobby Lane card, I'd love to hear what it is. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. I greatly appreciate it. And if you think that uh, Raymond Parker here, Buddy Parker, should be in the Hall of Fame, let me know. I kind of think he should, but then again, I may be a little on the biased side because I think he was a great coach from everything I've heard. So again, thanks guys. I really appreciate it.